I like this discussion because now investors are getting to understand where they would start.
Yeah.
And how that has shifted your perspective as an investor. And so getting back to faith-aligned capital.
Yeah.
What do you think are some of the opportunities that Christians are missing out by staying on the sidelines?
Yeah.
And what do you think that faith-aligned capital can unlock that other sorts of capital may take long or may not be able to unlock at this point?
Yeah. Well, I mean, what I would say is like, whether we like it or not, capital influences culture heavily. And Africa will see a tremendous economic boom over the next 2 to 3 decades.
Yeah.
I think with or without Christians. If Christians are involved, they have an incredible opportunity to shape culture in love and grace and patience and kindness and good governance and things like that. When Christian capital is out of the game, you don't have a say. Like, if you don't have stake in the game, you don't have a say. And that's just how it is. Like, if I own a business in the States and I have 5 investors and I have some random guy telling me how I should run my business, like, dude, you have no stake in the game. So you don't get a vote, right? But when you have capital in the game, you do get a vote. And so I think that there's a tremendous opportunity to help shape the culture, not bringing Western influence into it, but from a Christian faith perspective, right? And so like, that's in basic business opportunities, real estate, right? So when you do quality, affordable housing, rent to own real estate, you're creating an environment where people live, right? You can bring in people that you essentially pay to be, community engagement officers. So you can pay for their rent, and it's a couple who's newly married and, needs a little help on rent, but like, we'll spend 10 hours a week engaging with, 10, 20, 30 hours a week engaging with tenants and just making meals and like inviting people into their home for dinner and just loving on people. You can bring in churches to run Bible studies and small groups if people want to join. You can bring, faith-driven entrepreneur groups and things like that to help train people and develop people to be everything that God made them to be. Yeah. And so I think that, that's a really incredible way that you could shape culture. When it comes to tech, I mean, there's so many things with tech about shaping culture, media, even like media stuff, right? There's tons of ways you shape culture in that. And we're seeing a huge wave of that in the States with things like The Chosen and whatnot, and the House of David really blowing up. Like, capital has influence, regardless of if it's Christian or not. But as we see this Africa is the last frontier in the world to see large-scale economic development. And if Christians want a say in what that looks like, both local and foreign, not trying to bring in Western influence, but Christian influence, then we need to be putting our capital here. Like, there is a war going on today that is not going to be going on in 30, 40, 50 years. So if we're piling up our money to be deployed in 30, 40, 50 years, we're going to miss out. Yeah, and so it's like, it's up to you. Do you want to say or not?
Oh, so it's about shaping the culture.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, speaking about still faith alignment, and partnering with like locals, what have you discovered is it better to just, you're an investor, you come set up an American fund here, run it on your own, or have you seen value in forming partnerships with locals here? And what has that experience been about for you?
I mean, it's all about the right partnerships here, and culture matters, and local people are brilliant. And I think that's one of the things that like people don't understand in the US is like, Kenya's literacy rate is higher than the United States literacy rate. Like, there are countries in Africa that have higher literacy rates than the US. We have record high graduation rates. There's so many people who've gone to college in the States or in the UK, have come back, or building businesses. Like, I have met entrepreneurs, and lots of them that can go toe-to-toe with Silicon Valley's best. And I've met fund managers who can go toe-to-toe with the best PMs I worked with at Goldman, right? And so like, there are incredible local talent. And so I think it's arrogant for us Westerners to be like, oh, I'm going to come in with all the solutions and they need me. Like, they don't. And one of the the questions that I ask as I travel, because my goal is just to listen first. One of the questions I ask is like, what do you wish Western investors knew about Africans? Yeah. And the best answer I ever got was, I'd want them to know that the solutions to Africa's problems lie primarily with Africans. Yeah. And so I said, okay, amazing. Like, do you want partnership then? Because it seems like you guys have a great handle on this. They said, no, look, we want partnership, but we want you to partner with us, with expertise and mentorship and capital in alignment with each other, moving towards the same goal. They're like, look, there's no country that doesn't want foreign capital. They're like, look at Trump. Like, he just went on a capital raising tour in the Middle East and raised trillions of dollars of investment in the United States because that's good, right? It strengthens local currency. It raises the tide for everybody. Building is great. Infrastructure, all of that. We want that. But we want you to partner with us, right? Trump didn't just like go to Qatar and like say, hey, just invest and do whatever you want here. It's like, no, hey, come partner with us as we build this. And so I think that's, the heart of people. And frankly, like, I think there's a lot of local investors that can do a lot better job than I can. And I don't want to operate in a world where I'm by myself, because I think that the talent here is exceptional. You guys understand the culture. You've grown up in it. You understand the problems. And frankly, like, a US person coming to build a tech company, I don't think is going to take off like a local tech company. Like, if you look at all of the biggest, the Safaricom and the MTM, all of like local companies, right? Because people want to build and support local companies. So
okay, and some of the hindrances to investors focusing or taking confidence investing in Africa has been currency risks, governance issues, and the big issue of exit. And so, because those still will stand, and that is not about to change, what then would you tell an investor who is hesitant to invest because of those factors?
Look, I mean, when you invest in any region, there are risks. The risks are just different. And sometimes, in Africa, there are more risks than other places. Currency is a real risk. And so that's why I'm talking about how we need to do net exports and stuff like that. I mean, certain sectors like real estate are much less immune to currency risk, because if you do, like, let's just say you do a rent-to-own apartment complex, right? You sell a portion of the units outright, you recover a lot of your capital. And so then, you're essentially like de-risked significantly initially. And then you're getting cash every single month from, rent payments and stuff like that. And so, like, there's certain sectors that are less immune to it. I think when you're doing dollar-based sales, so like you're investing in a company that's selling to the US or the UK or exporting, and you're having like dollar-based income, then it de-risks some of your currency. And so there are ways to mitigate that, ways to hedge different currency stuff. You typically need to have a bigger fund to be hedging anything like that. And so that's one. Governance matters too. Leadership does matter. I'm not going to sit here and say like I would invest in all 54 countries in Africa, because I wouldn't. But what I'm trying to say is that we have lumped Africa together and essentially in our mindset, every African country has bad governance. I can't invest in there. When in reality, there's a lot of them, and there are a really strong majority of the largest economies in Africa with good property rights and good IP rights and all of that, where the government corruption is not at the scale that we might think it is, and where you can really do high quality business. And so, I think that those are some of the things that I would say. What was the last part of that?
The exit issue.
Yeah. And then on the issue of exits, here's what I would say. Like, one, this is why I'd want to invest with local fund managers, because as I've traveled around, it's become pretty clear to me that locals see more deal flow than foreign investors. And I think it's just a matter of having relationships and being in the local ecosystem. But like, local people I have seen have less trouble finding exits than foreign investors. And so I think it's not that foreign people can't invest, but like invest in partnership with locals. Okay. The other thing I would say is just from an investment standpoint, like as investors, we should not lose any ounce of our due diligence in Africa versus when we invest in the States. And like, if you're putting capital to work as a fund manager in Africa and you're not thinking about an exit before you put that capital in, you're doing a disservice to your investors. Like when I was on Wall Street and trading bonds, I remember like buying a bond that was like 5 bips cheaper today than it was yesterday. And I told my boss, like, look where I bought this thing. He's like, okay, cool. Who are you going to sell it to? I was like, I don't know. He's like, yeah, no one wants that right now. Like, good for you for buying it 5 bips cheaper than yesterday, but like, you don't have someone to sell it to. Yeah. And so I think that that's some of the things that we need to be thinking about. As I've talked to some of the local fund managers, they're like, look, before I make an investment in this company, I've already gone to 3 private equity firms that play at the level above me. So if I'm investing in companies, you know, who have an EBIT of, you know, 500K to 5 million, I'm talking to the guys who are doing 5 million to 20 million. And I'm asking it, what EBITDA would you get in? What multiple would you be interested in? So I already have a target and I know when I hit this, they're going to be interested and I can call them. And so I think as fund managers, like we have to be really smart and strategic. Like don't invest in things that you haven't sought out the opportunity, you know, for exit. Now VC is a little different because it's just like you're investing in a person and an idea, but like have an idea of where some of these exits can come from. And I think you'll see better exits.
Okay. And so what would you say is your challenge? Is your, what can I call it? Your main key point to myself and to Africans on how then can we, or what can we change about our countries in order to draw more and more billions of investments?
Yeah. It's a great question. I think that when you're talking about corruption, this is a key point that I think is really important, is that, again, not every country has super high corruption, but for those that do, it can be tempting to say like, okay, it's my turn. I'm up in leadership. I need to make this money, you know, for my family. But like when you eliminate corruption, there will be billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars flowing in from foreign investment into your country. Like investors go wherever their money is treated best, wherever the opportunity is greatest. And investors like risk. Like when I was at Goldman, and I have conversations every day with people that say, I need risk. The market's rallying, I want risk, right? Because risk equals return. So people want risk, but what they want is quantifiable risk. They want to be able to say, there's X probability of this happening at a company that will translate into X% drawdown in the stock price. What they don't want is unquantifiable risk. When there's unquantifiable risk of like, I don't trust the property rights, I don't trust the IP rights, I don't trust this. It's hard to quantify that, and it's hard to make an investment case when there's unquantifiable risk. And so there are a lot of places where you can quantify that risk in Africa, right? Your Nigeria's, your Kenya's, like there's Rwanda's, there's a lot of places where you can do really good business, really good investment. But there are also countries in Africa where it's much more challenging to do business because of that corruption. And what I would just say to people is like, I know it can be tempting to take that, but like, if you can transform your country and your community to not, you know, to have a zero tolerance policy for that, you will see billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars flowing into the country. You'll see skyscrapers going up, roads being built, things transforming, and everybody doing a lot better than they have been.
Okay. And to be honest, we do, as Africans, we are aware of the issues around corruption. But I think recently what is most encouraging is that there's a rising generation of young people who are vocal, educated, who want better for themselves and better for their societies and better for their countries. And they're talking about these things. They are asking the right questions and challenging government. And I'd say, like in Kenya today, the government of the day is under a lot of pressure because young people are not quiet about issues. And so it might not take a year or two to change status quo, since this is something that has been embedded in our culture for generations.
Yeah.
But the future looks brighter and better.
It does. Yeah. The people here are amazing. The young talent is amazing. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about social media, the internet.
Yeah.
Is people can see how people are living in other places in the world, right? And so when you look at who am I comparing myself to? And it's I can be working out once a week and be look, I'm better than that guy who hasn't worked out in 5 years. But I could be as good as the guy who's working out 5 times a week, right? And I could be cut, and I could be leaner, and I could be, and so it's who are we comparing ourselves to, and what's the future that we want to create for ourselves? And so I think the young people here there's so much potential. I believe so much in the people here. That's why I'm here. Look, if I didn't believe in the African people, I would probably be focusing elsewhere. I might still have a passion for economic development, but I might be somewhere else. But Africa, I believe more in Africa than I believe in any place.
Thank you for believing in us and having Africa at heart. Yeah. And so in your travels, what is one company or entrepreneur that you met that was really inspirational to you? Yeah.
There's so many, but I was with one yesterday. His name is Falake. She runs a 911 service in Nigeria. Ooh. And she has just done an extraordinary job of essentially creating a private company that is solving a very public issue. And she's creating public-private partnerships. She's using donor and investor capital, blended finance to do some of these initiatives. She's using motorbikes to get first responders out into the rural countries when a need arises, and then they'll, get them to an ambulance, take them to the hospital. They're working with insurance companies. She's connecting and coordinating so many different things and saving so many lives because of this service. And so I think that she's one that comes to the top of mind. But there's people in Rwanda and Kenya and Uganda and all kinds of places that are, just doing incredible things.
And so if you had $1 billion of faith-aligned capital, how would you segment it? Where would you put it?
Yeah.
Would it be grant money? Do you want a return for that?
Yeah.
Where would you put this money?
It's a great question. I would siphon that up a little bit. And so I'd put a portion of it in grant money, maybe $200 million in grant money. The majority would be in investment capital. I think I'd probably put a little bit of money towards, advancing the church and things like that. But I think blended finance is just so important, and I believe so much of it in it. And so I think that, when you're able to bring donor capital alongside investment capital to help build the roads that the investment capital drives on, the returns for investment capital are so much higher than they were before. The infrastructure is really getting built at a high quality level. And I think that it reduces this need for patient capital when you're having other capital come in to help for the, expedite the process. And so I think that that's one of the ways that, I would use it. I would definitely be investing in real estate. I'd definitely be investing in agro-processing. I'd definitely be investing in fintech. I'd definitely be investing in ways to unify people around a strategy. That's one of the things that I'm most passionate about. Is as Christians, what I really want us to understand is again, we talked about this before. We are the best positioned team in the history of the world to solve the world's greatest problems. Jesus in Matthew chapter 9, I love this. He was walking around the village, healing all kinds of people. And he said to his 12 disciples, he said, the harvest is plenty, but the workers are few. And anytime we talk about that now, we're see guys, the harvest is plenty, but the workers are few. Come on. I'm he said that to his first 12 disciples. Of course the workers were few. There were 12 of them trying to impact the world. If Christians did our job right for the last 2,000 years, that shouldn't still be true. And I don't think it's true. I think we just need to band together. I think we need to start realizing what we have. We've got the Tom Brady's of the world and the best wide receivers of the world and the best safeties and defensive end. These are, American football references, but we have the best people on the team, but we're all just doing drills on our own. We need to come together and solve these problems. And, there's people who are great at education, working on education, and they need to be connected with the people who are running entrepreneurship programs to identify the best and brightest and highest caliber entrepreneurs to refine them. And then those need to be connected to investors. And we need mentorship, all kinds of things, but we just need to work together. Like Jesus' last prayer for us, his last words on earth, which are obviously some of the most important words that anyone ever says. He had one prayer for us, for future believers. And it wasn't that we would love better. It wasn't that we would be more kind or even more generous, although we should be those things. He prayed that we would be one. And he said, that's how they'll know that you sent me, is if they're one. Like, Father, I pray that just as you and me are one, which just as Jesus and the Father are one is a crazy concept. But he's praying it, he believes it's possible. Like, would they be one? Because when they work together, the impact is unstoppable. And what really hurt me was seeing in Uganda. Uganda's a population of 85% Christians, 13% Muslims, 2% others. And the Muslims are gaining significant spiritual ground. And the reason for that is because they work together. When I talk to local people, I'm like, why are they gaining so much spiritual ground? They're like, it's easy. They work so well together that my life gets better. Like, they build companies that matter, like that are solving huge problems. I mean, every company matters, but like they're building hospitals, they're building banks, they're building insurance companies, they're building schools, and they're the best of all of them. And as they work together, my life is getting noticeably better. And so I want what they have.
Yeah.
And that was Jesus's prayer for us. Like, would you guys work together so well that you love on people so well that they want what you have? So I think we need to realize as Christians that we have everything that we need. We just need to work together a lot more efficiently. And I think if the goal is to build the tallest building in the fastest amount of time, we shouldn't all start building our own buildings from the ground up, right? Like, we work together, and the people that are great at laying a foundation, lay the foundation. People that are great at building the frame, build the frame. The people who are great at windows, do that. The people who are great at interior decorating, do that. And let's use our skills together for the advancement of his kingdom and for the good of other people. And so I would definitely use some of that capital to help, essentially create a system and a structure to help people work more effectively together.
Oh, wow, that is so inspirational. I mean, and very touching. And it's a challenge to Christians all over the world. And even locally here, because there are Christians here who are also blessed and have capital that they could also put in local companies. Yeah. And so, Zac, you have a platform called African Market Insights. Maybe you could tell us what it's about. When we check it out, what do we expect to find there?
Yeah. So African Market Insights is africanmarketinsights.com. You can follow that on LinkedIn. You can follow me, Zac Sicher, on LinkedIn as well. But the goal of that platform is essentially just to help communicate what people are telling me as I travel the continent, right? This year is a year to listen and to learn from local people, to ask what their dreams and visions are for their country, their continent, how they want to go from A to B, what the strategy is, what pillars need to be moved to get there, and then to be a little bit of a lens into the continent. I know that not everyone in America has a year to travel across the continent, right? And so as I've been blessed with this, with an incredible partner in Henry Kasner, like, my goal is to just be a little bit of a lens into the continent and to shine the light on what's going on. And so, I've got market insight reports that I send out every week that just highlights either a region or a concept about investing here that people should be aware of. I do some devotionals. We've got a thing called Faith Friday, where we just try to overlay our faith in what Jesus has taught us about how we should love people and live life with what's going on in Africa. And then there's videos and content. We're doing some filming stuff over here and other things. And so you can see all of that either on LinkedIn or africanmarketinsights.com.
Okay. Oh, wow. We'll definitely check it out.
Awesome.
And so as we are winding up, what would you like to be your legacy? What would you want to be remembered with or for?
Gosh, that's such a good question. I want to be known as someone who just had an in-love relationship with Jesus and who loved people so well. I want to be known as someone who chose the best interests of others and acted on their behalf, as someone who lived to make an impact in the lives of other people and had so much joy and fun doing it, lived with adventure, enjoyed this life that the Lord gave us, and just used my life to make as great of an impact in other people's lives as I can.
Okay. And so would you say you figured that, or you're working towards that, or you figured out your journey, or what God has in plan for you for Africa in those 3 months?
I haven't figured it all out. No. I think the goal, and one of the things that the Lord has helped me to do, and by no means am I perfect. I've got so much to work on. But he has helped me to hold my career kind of with an open hand, and every year or so to just check in and pray and say, hey, is this like what you still want me doing, or is there something else? I had a partner at Goldman gave me a great piece of advice when asking about how do you know when it's time to move on? They said, ask yourself 2 questions. And those 2 questions are, did you learn everything that you want to learn? And did you make the impact that you want to make? And if you can answer yes to both of those, then maybe it's time to move on. And so I think that every year, just trying to find rhythms of silence and solitude, to pray and to listen, to ask God. I mean, I'm a mountain guy, I'm an outdoors guy. And so I love, I'll just book a trip for a long weekend out to one of my favorite mountain ranges in the world and just say, God, this time's yours. Just give me, show me your will. And he's been so kind and faithful to just give me guidance and clarity. And a lot of that, there's certainly areas we have to operate in the gray and we don't always feel that clarity, but then it just comes back to the Bible and God's heart. And it's we can't be paralyzed by not having perfect clarity, because at the end of the day, God's given us his word. And it's look, if you're wondering if you've got a passion to help the poor, you've got skills to help the poor, if you're wondering if you should do it, I think when you get to heaven and stand before God, I don't think he's going to be upset at you saying hey, why'd you go do this? Oh, because you love these people and I love these people. Okay, bravo. So I think that we can do a little bit of analysis paralysis. And so I don't want to encourage that in any means, just go out and do it. But I think building some rhythms of silence and solitude are really important.
Okay. Well, I hope you do consider Mount Kilimanjaro.
Yeah. That's a great idea.
For one of your devotional
That's a great idea.
Yeah. So what Bible verse could you leave us with today?
So good.
As a reflection.
My favorite verse is 2 Corinthians 8:9, which says, for you know the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, that though he was rich, yet for your sake became poor, so that, he said, for you know the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, that though he was rich, yet for your sake became poor, so that you, through his poverty, might become rich. And I think it's just the most incredible explanation of the gospel I see anywhere, is this idea that God, though he was everything, humbled himself to take the very nature of a servant, to be born into poverty, made in human likeness so that he could associate with everyone, that through his poverty, we might have the riches that he has in heaven. And so I think that, that's a beautiful description of the gospel, of God's love for us. And then out of that, how we're supposed to live too, right? Humbling ourselves, so that through our humbling of ourselves, we might help others to be everything that God created them to be. And so all of this, none of this is in an effort to be good enough for God. He has already accomplished that on my behalf. He's won, so I'm free to lose. He's succeeded, so I'm free to fail. He was someone, so I'm free to be no one. But it's really just understanding that he's taking care of me. He's taking care of us. Our focus can then turn away from ourselves onto him and onto the needs of other people and just love them well.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
And lastly, you are young. And I would say from most of my interactions, most of the investors I have met are way older.
Yeah.
People who have operated successful businesses, sold them, people in retirement. So what would you say to these people who are probably at a stage where their kids are inheriting their wealth? Or young people like you who are thinking about this? What would be your encouragement to them or your challenge to them?
I mean, the challenge to both of them is, look, like there is a war going on right now, whether we realize it or not. The more oblivious we are to it, the more the devil's happy. But like, we are in a war and bullets need to be spent now. Like, Ukraine couldn't hold their bullets for 3 years and just say, oh, like, we're just not going to use them because maybe we'll need them in 5 years. Like, you have to use your bullets when the war's at your doorstep. And there is a war going on here, a spiritual war, right? A war for our culture, a war for our hearts, a war for our minds. And when it comes to poverty, I mean, there are really real issues and challenges. And one of the reasons that like I got in the game more significantly was because I heard a sermon and a message by Tim Tebow. And he said, are you living on your timeline or someone else's? Because if you're living on your timeline, sure, maybe you can have a great 40-year career, make a lot of money, you can give some away at the end of it. But the girl who's caught in human trafficking today, she doesn't have 40 years, right? And the people who are living $1 a day and selling their children into child marriages because they can't afford school fees, they don't have 40 years. And so it's like there's a war going on today, and it's time we get our capital involved. It's time we get our time involved. And I'm not saying everyone has to drop what they're doing, go travel across Africa. What I'm saying is like use what you have, the gifts, skills, talents, and abilities that God has given you to get in the game and help to solve some of these greatest problems. Because like if we don't step up now, these aren't going to be problems in the future. We're just going to have lost, you know? And yes, we serve a God who is big and able to revive that and all of that, but like he's calling us to step up now. And so I think it's, you know, kind of this David calling moment is like, who's going to step out, you know? And I want to be remembered as someone who stepped out.
Oh, wow. Okay. Thank you, Zac. To that, I'll say when God wants to help man, he sends a man to help the man that needs God's help. So thank you for such an insightful conversation and inspirational conversation. And I hope this sets precedents to what Africa is like, to the hesitant, the curious, the investor somewhere in California or Texas who wants to invest in Africa but does not where to start or has these doubts and questions. And thank you for challenging faith-based investors.
Absolutely.
As Christians, we have a duty, as the Lord instructed us, to make this a better world with the talents and the gifts and the blessings that He has bestowed upon us. So thank you for joining us today.
Of course.
Thank you for coming to Nairobi for this. This has been such an exciting conversation.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. To our listeners, I hope you had a wonderful time listening to us. I hope you've learned. I hope you've been inspired. And I hope we'll see those billions from faith-based investors flowing to Africa. Thank you.